Patrons, subscribers, fans, followers from around the world, welcome to your IR4 podcast. This is Brian Masterson. I'm Jeremy Alexander Newsom, and we have with us today a very special guest, a good friend of mine, trading buddy, and a patron of the IR4 podcast since its inception, my good friend Sammy. And we're here to talk about the architectural visualization, his experience, where it's going, where it's at now, the future, the past, the present. This is the IR4 podcast. You rock. So, my man, tell us a little bit about kind of what you do right now. Like, what's your job presently entail?
Okay, so we visualize designs from designers like architects. They want to build a space, so before they actually build the space, they want to see how it's going to look. So we visualize it for them. Yeah. Help them change some, like look at it in different angles, change some colors, see how it reacts with lights.
Oh. So the architects are the ones who hire you guys?
The architects, or we do the actual design. They just give us the basics of like references or.
No way, they'll give you the actual blueprint.
Right. Yeah.
Whoa.
It can go like it depends on like some companies they give us a model and we just apply textures and lights and cameras, and this is where they start realizing the model or the design they did in the first place doesn't really work. Yeah. So yeah, that's why it's called architectural visualization. So we visualize what the end result is going to look like.
Which is hard to do, I mean, from like an artist standpoint, because you're kind of given like, hey, here's like a general idea of what I want. You got to build all the angles and think about how the light's going to connect. Yeah. Dude, he was telling me something earlier that blew my mind. We were driving by in a car or a truck, and he said, I know how this truck reflects light because I have to build it and then have these. Wow.
Like the horizon line has to be in a specific area of the car. Okay. That's how they like start designing a car. Like there's specificness.
Never thought about that.
Yeah. Wow. So are you doing mainly residential, commercial properties, or all of them?
All of them. Okay. All of them. A lot of them are residential, but ever since 2008, when the housing market, we moved on to other stuff. But anything, like even I don't want to name brands, but like coffee shops or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Storefronts and whatnot.
Right. Yeah.
So like when is it mostly new construction, or they do a lot of redesign? So
there's that too. There's a lot of the interesting parts where we take a building that was made for storage and frozen meat. Okay. And it was just abandoned buildings, and then some big huge company wants to rent that place, and they want to keep the old aspect of that building and then renovate it into.
That's awesome. I love those type of buildings.
Yeah.
Old like an old factory that is updated. Yeah. Are you using like a specific software program that, or is it like you guys have your own program that you built yourself? Like how does the tool actually work?
It's both. There's one big main software called 3D Max. Okay. But then there's a lot of plugins that we add, just like a coding to make things easier instead of just applying the same thing over and over again. We just have a coding thing of it. Yeah. So it's mainly 3D Max and then Photoshop or whatever. Okay. If it's animation, we use editing.
So do you need more of a mathematical background or like more of a graphic design background for what you do?
Graphical. Okay. Like I don't do coding. I just do I do the artsy parts, like just the lighting and the camera angles, the colors and all that stuff.
Can you actually draw, like freehand draws?
No, that's the thing. Like my whole family knows how to draw very nicely with their but I can't. I just can't. And I'm the only one in the family that's an artist, like a professional paid artist.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I can't do it with my hands.
But that's a testament to software right there.
Yeah. Right.
Like, boom, exactly. I can't even draw and I'm making money with drawing.
So I feel like it may correlate to like animation, like movies, anime, stuff like that.
Yeah, do you do anything like that, or is this pure architecture?
This is like a character design. It has a different, I don't know how to call it, but it's more organic kind of shapes and moves for animation, like cartoons and stuff. Mm-hmm. But for my part, it's more architectural. Like it's more, it's like photography.
Got it. Do you have in-home architects who are designing it, or your firm is strictly responsible for doing the 3D imaging?
Right. It's strictly just visualizing the design. Okay. But we have 2 architects in-house that are licensed that can apply. Some clients come to us and just give us cutouts from magazines.
Really?
And they
No
tell us
way.
we want something like that. And then we just, so the architects do their part.
Okay.
It obviously goes back and forward with the client.
Where are you guys based out of?
Chicago.
Chicago, okay.
Yeah.
Are you a national firm, or you guys specifically work in that region?
I would say 70% of our clients are outside of Chicago.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Or maybe even more.
Wow.
Whoa.
Well, that's the beauty of this whole thing, that it's all digital.
It's all digital.
There's no need, I don't see any of my clients, actually.
Yeah.
Most of them are on the phone or emails.
So, what is the competitive landscape like? Is there other firms doing this? Like, well, I guess this is a kind of a big, broad question. Feel free how to answer it how you like. But one, what made you get into this field? How long has this field been around? And is there a bunch of people doing it?
Okay, so I started getting into it when I was in architectural school, and I realized being an architect is a very general word.
Mm-hmm.
You need years and years of experience, just like being a doctor.
Right.
There's specific type. Yeah.
And then I realized that I like building something on a computer and then seeing it being done, or any artist would say that you can see your effort after, like you can see the output of what you're doing. So that's how I started enjoying this. And for the competitive part, there's a lot of competition all over the world, but the biggest issue right now is the cost, and that's where I feel like I want to start my own thing, because I feel labor is really expensive here in the US, or most of the world actually.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's like other countries that are doing maybe higher quality in 1/10 of the price, for example.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And so people are just outsourcing overseas. I mean, since it's all digital, it's all remote work, so they can outsource someone over in.
And that's like a virus spreading in this field, actually, and that's why I want to take over this, or take advantage of it before it becomes a disadvantage for me.
Right. So you're seeing a demand grow outside of the real boutique style, tailor-made services to someone who can just do this in their sleep over and over. Mm-hmm. So the demand's growing for this type of service, but it's coming in at a lower rate.
Right. And with sometimes better quality too.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's just rare.
So how does your current business, or how do you start a new business that caters to that? How are you successful in this industry?
So I lived in 3 countries,
really?
like in the Middle East mostly. So I've seen how people work here, and I've seen how people develop there, because there's a lot of booming industries in like Dubai or Qatar.
Right.
So I've seen both worlds, and I feel like I want to connect them both. In the Middle East, there's a lot of people from the lower paid employees.
Mm-hmm.
I would say. So like I feel like I need to take this booming industry from Dubai, for example, and like connect with my friends that live in. Can I say the countries that are paid less, like India, Bangladesh, or whatever,
sure.
or Brazil even?
Wow.
Well, I mean, that's very admirable of you, giving people jobs.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because I know the connections, like I want to just connect them together. Because here in the U.S., and I keep telling my boss this, and I hope he doesn't watch this, but but I keep telling him, I've seen how Dubai, for example, is really busy, and over here we're so laid back, and we're so. I mean, it's a nice thing to have a job that you're you're relaxed and there's no pressure. But at the same time, the contrast is so big, and I'm trying to bring it here, but both sides are not interested, and that's what I'm trying to.
I feel like a lot of Americans are content at work, and they just do the bare minimum of what needs to get done.
Yeah.
And there's really no initiative to further, unless you are the business owner or high-level C-suite, executive who's really trying to move the company and grow the company, but. I don't think you have that option in Dubai because it's so booming. You have to keep up and you have to put in that work, But that's a very good kind of vision. How do you bring it together?
I mean, I've noticed it even in road construction. Like if they're redoing a road here in the US, it can take 2 weeks.
Oh,
3
nice.
weeks.
Weeks.
Yeah.
Years.
Well, it depends on the road.
It can
like this
be a
whole
while.
content thing.
Yeah.
Because in Qatar, obviously they get really cheap labor, really effective labor too. But they finish a road like they did the whole country highways from scratch again in like a year and a half because of the Asian Olympics and stuff. So they're really fast. There's none of this content feeling.
Yeah,
it's nice. I mean, I can't complain about it.
No,
a year and a half.
That's awesome.
Can
you imagine how long it would take just to do like all of Nashville's roads, like every road.
I mean, well, and that's another thing. I wonder what the infrastructure, how the infrastructure varies between the two. I feel like obviously, well, if you look at the industrial revolution and the growth of the Americas with railroad and then eventually cars, the demand for concrete and building up the infrastructure, I feel like we were before Dubai in that, but now Dubai is so much new. Like they need to keep building because of the demand there. That demand's not really here anymore. I mean, Nashville, we see the city growing, but I mean, how's Chicago? I mean, you're from Chicago. Is it still growing, and what are the efforts there as far as development goes?
When I visit other states like Texas or Tennessee, even, I think Chicago's struggling financially. I thought it was growing, but I don't see it in comparison with other states. Chicago is I don't know, it's different.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had a random question about kind of your line of work, and I'm trying to think of like file size. So how does your company send these files? Because they have to be massive.
I'm
guessing.
Yeah, no,
Is it
I mean,
video?
if it's videos, if they're videos, we just use any of the like Dropbox or Google or whatever. Or if it's really big, then it's FTTP. But the like 3D Max file itself can be really heavy, but no one really, or they shouldn't actually see it. It's
right,
just,
they're seeing the end product.
They export it and everything.
Yeah.
Mostly it's just images, and images can be any size.
Okay. So the 3D Max will actually export it and kind of render it into an actual specific image.
Into an image.
Now, how detailed are these images? Is it just a picture, or can you like zoom in, like a full-on video, like you're going up a staircase?
Have you ever heard of a vector file?
Yeah.
Is it a vector?
No,
it's not a vector.
It's a raster or raster image.
Okay.
Vector is like you zoom in and it's not pixelated. It's more,
it doesn't change.
Right. Yeah. But no, so some of the outputs are either a still image or a really high res image that you can pan around it. It'll give you the feeling of you're zooming in or zooming out.
Okay.
Cool.
Or we do a 360.
Okay.
Or we do virtual reality. We give them all the tools. Like there was a client that we even bought an Oculus Rift for them.
Really?
And part of the package.
Wow.
Whoa.
So, yeah, there's a lot of these fun stuff. There's actually also like we change it into what do you call it? Augmented reality.
Augmented reality, yeah.
That we buy them an iPad, or we don't really buy it. It's part of the contract. Like give them an iPad with the whole project or the whole software
on it.
made. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Whoa. So how many software applications would you say you use per job?
Oh. At least, because it'll take me a minute to think of them, but at least 5 or 6.
Yeah.
That's not including the plugins, because there are plugins that are added,
Right.
that are like a different software, but they're added into the main software.
Well, here'd be a question. Where do you think the future of that would be going, as far as not the actual workforce, the labor, because we kind of briefly talked about that, but just, let's say 5 years from now, you have a giant conglomeration building a hotel, and they need a 3D rendering image of this particular hotel. Where is that going to go? Is this going to be a thing that becomes, like Brian was saying, a very high quality but super fast job, or are they going to wear goggles and they put on a presentation? They can film it right into their. Does it become like a virtual reality walkthrough? Where do you see this going?
It's all about what the client wants. Like we sit with them and we show them what options we can provide, and then it becomes like a negotiation thing. How much they want to spend on it, how much. Yeah. Because the more they spend, obviously the better the quality, the better options or the different. Most of the time when it's a big company, we do all the animation, the still image, the virtual reality.
What's the turnaround time from when you sit down with a client, you listen to their needs, what they want?
It depends. Sometimes, like they want custom-made furniture, so we have to model every single piece.
You can do furniture too.
Oh yeah.
So you do like
you want you like use
cars, furniture, houses.
Yeah, but most of the time it becomes because we have a huge library of things. So if they want a custom-made couch, we go through the library really quick, and sometimes it's something really close to it, so we just edit like the armrest or like extra cushions or whatever. Yeah. So it becomes easier in time.
So this is a couple months.
It's really difficult to give an example, but let's say if we're doing this room, this would take 4 days.
Okay.
Let's say a week, a business week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense because the more I'm thinking about it, like if you are a client, let's say we want to get it done, like we want to see what it looks like, but that's not, I don't know, the most important part, right? Because if you have the architecture, the plans, as long as you know it works, you have someone who builds it, that they're probably not going to spend insane amounts of money, but it's really good for presentations if you're trying to sell a customer. So like a real estate agent,
Well, I was gonna say, is your clients mainly the actual developer, or is it someone who needs to go find investors?
It depends.
it's a good question.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes it's the. It depends also on the size of the project, because sometimes there's we call them the owner,
Yeah.
like the developer. They go to an architectural firm, and then they become our contact. But the person that's paying it is the big owner or the developer.
Right.
So it depends. It varies.
Okay.
But let me give you an example, nice example that I went through in Qatar. So there's a huge high-rise tower, and usually high-rise towers have this crown at the top, and so the design was done and the construction was already going through and everything. But then, before the last few floors were built, the sheikh, the developer or the person who owns the whole thing, didn't like how the crown looked. So he came and visited us at. I worked in an architectural firm at the time. He came, and then him, my boss, and my supervisor were sitting behind me, and I had my computer. I was changing the model in front of them, just going like they kept telling us, okay, shorter, thinner, change color, whatever.
Interesting.
And I showed them how the sun would look if it reflects
That's
on
cool.
Isn't that wild?
That's really cool.
And then the cooler part is that about a month later, they rented what do you call the helicopters? That crane helicopter,
Yeah.
whatever.
They have the
The crown was built, and they got a helicopter to
drop it. Whoa!
And so, like, I did this thing in front of them, and then I see it on top of a crown. And
that's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So, here's where I have an idea.
Boy.
Let's say the architecture is let's say that the framework, right? Phase 1, you're putting up the framework of the building.
Mm-hmm.
What about, and then you have these models done that you're talking, what would you call them? Just prints, pictures, what is the end graph? The
renders.
Graphics? The renders,
That's
okay.
the term we use, yeah.
You have the renders done, but let's say the building is nowhere near to getting drywall up or whatever, but you can take the developer in and you can have a Oculus Rift on, and they can be walking through the building, and they walk into that specific room, and they can see what the final product would look like.
That's exactly what we do.
Oh, they already do it.
We've done that, yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
That is killer.
That's really cool.
It gives them, because we actually, this is like the high end part, but there's also the other part is that they give us existing images of the interior or exterior, and we superimpose an image on it. So when you look at it, everything around it looks real, and then if you get the lighting correct and the color tones correct, you don't know that it's a 3D,
real.
it's a digital thing.
That
So
is awesome.
Yeah, it's actually very challenging, and that's where the joy comes in.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Sammy, can you layer rooms or buildings? And what I mean by that is, if I'm looking at like a final product or the bare bones of a product, let's say there's like 4 or 5 layers to see the plumbing, the electrical, and you can just click through, and they can either add or subtract the different layers.
Right. So there's 2 different answers for this. There's the architectural firm part, and then there's the visualizing part. The architectural part is that the architect becomes the maestro of all these services, like the plumbing, the electrical, the fire.
Right.
And so when we use like AutoCAD, for example, all the other engineers are drawing their drawings based on the architectural layout, and it's something called XRef like X reference. So whatever they're doing is updated on the main file of the architect's file.
Okay.
So it's all layers, but it's also not in the same file.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It does.
And so that's the architectural firm part. Now the visualizing part is everything. You can arrange everything in layers. To see things different, because sometimes they want different options of an interior design.
Right.
So you can click this. You can by a button it would change.
Right.
The way things.
Like an AC or HVAC unit can be put here or can be put here, and then that is going to be dependent on the aesthetics of the room as well as how the drywall wall is going to be laid
And
out.
another good example is, because I worked with cars for 7 years in Detroit, and you click a button for every, let's say, Ford F-150, you have so many different trims, so many different options and stuff, so every click would change the color of the door handles, the mirrors, the bumpers.
Okay.
So it's all layered. It's not actually, in this case, it's not layers, it's something that, it's actually a layer of a layer. So it turns on and off specific layers to get to a specific...
It's almost like, it reminds me of a gallery, and you can just customize. Like if I go to a dealership and and let's say you make a user-friendly, because I have an F-150, and I went down to the dealership, and they have this big screen, touch screen, and you can like
build on price. They call it.
Yeah. But that sounds like
F-150 was my toughest car. It was because there's so many different options.
Yeah, there is.
There's the exhaust pipe.
I love the great truck.
It's a good truck.
So, all right. You mentioned earlier that you've been thinking about starting your own firm or your own company. Why haven't you done so already?
That's a very good question.
It's a loaded question.
It is.
It's something that I recently had a breakthrough in. Like, everyone is scared, and everyone takes things for granted. We think that this is fine, and we get used to it, and we forget what the amount of potential we have inside us. And it's something I realized when I did the mud races. Like, you can do so much more than you think.
Sure.
And if you do what everyone is told to do, it just doesn't take you anywhere. You go to college, you get a salary, you put your money in your savings.
You sound like an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Already.
He's there.
I mean, if you don't want to be, if you want to be the same as everyone, fine by me. I just don't want to be like it's.
Dude, I think you're ready. I think that what you just described as to why you haven't done it yet. You just figured all this out, right? That I think is for me was the biggest hurdle into starting my own business and becoming an entrepreneur is you have to think outside of the box. You have to go against the grain. You can't be in the normalcy of everyday life and be like everyone else. You have to be that odd guy.
Right.
And you have to believe, right? Because you're taking a huge risk. And no one else is backing you. It's just you. You have to make it work.
I appreciate the things, because we all have different uniqueness in ourselves. So I appreciate that. And also the other breakthrough I had was when I had my knee surgery. There was a big part in my physical therapy of learning how to walk again. And so then I realized we can all walk, and we're just taking it for granted. And so like, if you're healthy and you're doing well and you can walk, why not do stuff like go try the mud races. I don't know, it doesn't matter what you try. It doesn't have to be something athletic, just something different.
Right.
I take this as a bigger example. If I know people in India and Dubai and Australia and stuff, why can't I use this to my benefit?
You're exactly right.
Yep.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah.
And with part of that, what do you think would be, or maybe even a better question, is there a very specific niche in which you could attack in architectural visualization thinking?
Yeah. Everything is moving into virtual reality and augmented reality specifically.
Okay.
Like where, like that wine bottle, you put a camera in front
Yeah,
of it.
have you seen this one yet?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll have to show you. So if you go to Kroger or whatever, there's like this 19 Crimes wine. Do you drink wine?
I've had, I love wine.
Okay, buy one of those.
19 Crimes,
Buy one of those, and there's an app that you can download, and you can hover over the label, and it comes alive, and like the person on the bottom tells you a story, like multiple stories, not just one. It's phenomenal.
That's really cool.
It's really cool. So, yes, go back to that.
So one of the ideas that me and a friend of mine that we keep talking about, going to a country that has a lot of history, but they don't have the tools to show it. So he went to approach one of these museums, and to tell them we can build an app that you just point at this broken wall, and then it suddenly appears like how it was through your phone, like augmented reality.
Killer.
So
that would be sick.
So even just like, what's even to extrapolate on that idea is like, all right, you're going through a museum and there's like Henry Ford's first Model T or whatever, and you have your app and you point your camera at it and someone pops up and tells you a story and you have your headphones in. But think about all the historical places in the earth that don't have, that isn't in a museum and don't have.
Sorry, I said museum. I didn't actually. I meant like what do you call them? Like an area that's historical.
Yeah, like a
park.
Well, like Machu Picchu or something like that, or
reserves,
or caves. Like old caves that have like all these, caveman paintings on them, and like you can go in there and like learn the history, but then just upload it in the app.
Yeah. And it's in your hand. Like everyone has a phone, and if you're passing by that place, but I believe some places already did that. Like there was a nice example, but it's not really 3D. But like in Brazil, they had these sidewalks that had these tiny tiles.
Yeah.
And they put these tiles in different colors to form a big bar. What do you call these barcodes?
QR code.
Yeah, QR code.
Yeah.
So if you're walking and you see a QR code, you just snap it and it tells you the history of the city. And
that's so cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff you can do. Like if I can build a digital reality, then it can just open up to many.
I think you're onto something there. There was a company that I was trying to help get funded. They came to me and they needed, I forget the amount, but I think a couple million to develop the software. But it basically was you download it the app on your phone, but you use the camera. And if you're out in the woods or hiking or whatever, a flower, any type of plant, if you point your phone at it, it recognizes the plant, analyzes it, goes into the database, comes back and tells you the origins of the plant, what it is, poisonous or anything like that. Like.
Cool.
It's really like, can you eat these berries or not eat these berries? But
wonderful.
Still needs a lot of advancement.
Oh, sure.
But just the concept, of being able to do that is awesome.
I think I found Google reverse image. I think it was 2 years ago, where you could pretty much upload any image into Google, and it'll show you either what it is or where it's on the internet.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, we use that a lot, by the way, because the clients send us references of a specific couch or something.
Copyright it.
And no, we upload it through Google search, image search,
and it'll tell you,
and it'll tell us, so we can get the details, like the dimensions, if we want to build it.
It's wild, man. Yeah, it's wild, and the technology they're working on now, where you can. I know Ashley was telling me this, but it was on a commercial, I think Google Box or something, like a TV. But anyway. You pretty much can search in a video, like the words or in the video. Like, hey, this person, I know they said X, Y, Z. Let me search for that. And you can go to any clip in a movie just by searching whatever words.
Interesting.
Right, so it like digitalizes the words and the audio. Yeah. And I mean, so anyway, with technology like that, I'm so pumped up about how that's going to transform industries.
I think, the huge overhead of all of this is connecting the real world, which is what we're in right now, but then we don't need to get down the Matrix conversation, but then digitalizing it and connecting the two.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more information on the internet than there is when you're just out there. But if you want to know something, instead of having the outdated system of Googling something or asking Siri, like, if you can make that more seamless and easier to access, I think you're onto something.
Yeah.
And everyone has a phone in their pocket. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
You use this as your platform.
So, what you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to go back to that niche. Do you think it's going to be, if you did create a firm or your own business and connecting these these parts, is it going to be architectural visualization? Is it going to be cars? Is it going to be roads? Is it going to be? Are you going to work with music industries about like how to put on shows? Like what?
Ooh, like visualizing different concert layouts? That'd be cool.
What's your niche, you think?
Years ago when I started brainstorming with a friend, I kind of want to stick, like we resulted in picking just one thing, architecture. I just believe that if you go to a restaurant that has a huge menu, it'll all taste average. But if it's like they only do chicken, it'll be a good chicken. So I felt like it just need to be.
So do you know what you're going to be doing?
Architectural.
Oh, so just buildings.
Architectural can be buildings, interiors. rooms.
Residential or commercial? Is it what you
It
want
all,
to focus on?
it's all under
Okay,
architect.
do both. Okay.
Like it's not going to be character design, cars, visual effects.
Right.
So and I do believe,
He will.
and I know you will, because I can already sense it. But when you get up and running and start really growing, that's when you're the CEO sitting at the top, and you have your team who's killing it in this one specific region that you're doing. You gotta start thinking, okay, how do we continue our growth? And I was talking to a client today about what is your growth rate going to be, and that's just a whole nother situation. But that's when you can start when you're at that point of plateauing, you start adding those subsidiaries and start doing more things that we're talking about now, but that eventually will bring you back up in that climb. So always innovating the business and making sure there's something new and fresh, but you still maintain and do really well what it is that you started with.
Right. Yeah. And just to balance things out, I'll tell you my concerns about this industry. That softwares are becoming so easy right now to model a chair or something. So that's one thing that this whole field is worried about. Like things are getting so much easier. Google has this software called SketchUp. I don't know if you guys heard about. It's just making things so easy.
Tell us about it. What's SketchUp?
It's like a much cheaper version of Max.
Oh, okay.
3D Max.
Okay.
But you can do anything. Like you build models, you can render an image after you're done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, in an industry like that, there's no specific need to be massively afraid of lower cost and quicker output.
It's the art.
Yeah, because exactly. At some point, you're still going to need that. But I mean, think about it, McDonald's. If you're going to go, get a really high quality burger, you're probably not going to McDonald's, but it's going to be kind of fast and pretty cheap, or at least a lot expensive.
Right.
So there's always those markets. But then you have, or same thing with a car. You have a Honda and Toyota, but then you have the Bentley. There'll always be those customers or firms or buildings or people, clients that really want the high end.
But think of remember where you first heard the word Photoshop when it became a verb.
Yeah.
That was a scary moment for a lot of people. Like I know a lot of people that did, we call it 2D work. It's just Photoshop, like logos and stuff. When Photoshop became a verb, a lot of people lost their career because how easy it became.
Right.
So that's part of the fear of how.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's going to be people that are going to be able to do it themselves. I mean, without question, but you will always have the clients.
And I don't think that. I think one important thing is to recognize those fears and those things that can inhibit what you are trying to do as a business owner. That's how you can look at them, or you recognize the fears, but you use them as accelerators as to how we can get ahead of the curve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's ultimately what a business owner does.
Yeah.
They are, the masters of their industry, and they're trying to be the best at what they're doing. So eventually, maybe you guys are the ones innovating the software, but you're always staying ahead of that curve.
That's the thing. If you're working in technology, it's only a matter of time before you get outworked or outpaced.
You lose.
Yeah,
yes, that's for sure.
You're going to have to keep on going, okay, how do I take this technology and implement it with XYZ service, XYZ product? The thing is, what I will see is probably a lot of customer service applications coming back. Meaning, if you do have something where you can go and you can get a really fast, easy product, but I'm going to come to your firm because I'm going to sit down, we're going to smoke a cigar, we're going to have some brandy, have a nice.
I'm going to that.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
You have like this. You have this feeling, this experience that you provide to your customers. Those things will still come back. I'm saying with the technology, yes, you can have super, super, super fast technology, cheap cost, cheap labor, intense speed, but customers will also always crave that experience.
Yeah, and the intimate relationship too. Feeling welcome, feeling like you're being taken care of.
You'll have both. Maybe that's what I'm saying. You'll have both, and with any entrepreneur in technology, you're going to always have to go, what's next, and how can I and my team work on this software, work on this technology, and slowly innovate it so that it does get better.
And I think that's the nature of anything.
Absolutely.
There's always going to be, you always have to make another step.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
So what other barriers of entry that are concerns of you? And we don't need to be industry specific here. Is it hiring people, managing people, forming the actual entity, fundraising, having the capital to build out what you need? Like what are your concerns?
My concern maybe that the internet, okay, so like things are going so fast, it can be a good and a bad thing. The good thing is it opens up to the world, but the bad thing is it opens up to more competitors. So like cheaper labor is the worst killer of any business. So like if I can find cheap labor, someone else can find it cheaper, and then the market starts going lower, and it becomes.
Here's one thing that you really need to take. This factor is so important in any type of business for any person. That factor is time. People who are developers don't have the time to go. I mean, they may, but are they going to invest their time in going out and finding cheap labor? And then, again, cheap labor, you may not get what you want, so you have to keep going back. And you're spending a lot of time over here when you need to be focusing on development of the building.
Right.
If you can sell them, this is in our hands, we will be efficient with your time, you can be more focused over here on what you need to do and less focused over here, so you are actually the one who's managing the labor, getting their
facilitating
the cheap labor, getting their renderings in, saying no, redo it or whatnot, but then you're bringing it back to the developer who didn't have to waste any of his time over here,
right?
Yeah.
Who hired you for that.
That's kind of like what you told me. Like, there's two things that make a good business: you sell something or you solve a problem. So that's probably
those two, man. Those two. And the ironic part is, companies like Verizon and Nationwide Insurance and State Farm, a lot of these companies figured that out, that you can have cheap labor, but only in certain instances. So if I'm calling and I just got in a car accident, and my wife's injured or whatever, and we need to go to the ambulance, and I call and I get someone who I can't understand, or they can't understand me, there's a language barrier, and they don't know who I am, and that's going to cause a bad experience.
Right.
And so when I call Verizon now, or other companies, they finally figured out that you can get really inexpensive labor, but sometimes you don't want to.
Right. Yeah, I think, it's like you said, selling a good product or providing a service that is a solution to a problem. And the demand has to be there. I can create a product, I can create sunglasses with the beer bottle opener on the back of them, but how many people really want that? So you have to look at the demand and what people really want.
Right.
And that always changes. That's always something that changes. You stay true with that nucleus core of what problem or product you're serving, but everything that revolves around it, it's okay, how are we getting closer to what we're really doing, and where is the demand really at?
Yeah.
And always adjusting a little bit here and there is important. Just like sailing a boat. You can't just, we're going this way, the wind's going to shift and the waves are going to shift. You have to, always adjust here and there.
Right, yeah.
And what I think another really important aspect to take away would be also, in your present role, reach out to previous customers or clients and ask them, how was your experience? How could it have done better? What would you have liked to experience more of? What could we have done better? And that way you're going to get firsthand from the client. They could have said, man, I would have loved for you to come down, like handhold me through this. You sent me a bunch of emails, and I would have loved like come to your office. I didn't care if I even paid more. I'd love to just be shown like physically. It could be anything. I'm just making up examples.
Okay.
But you more or less, you find out what old customers need. That could be a problem too that you solve in any new business or any new frontier. Is you go, man, every single one of these clients wanted the job done faster. Every single one. They're always going to want that. So what you can do is you take the Chick-fil-A approach, whereas you don't get afraid of hiring more staff. You hire so much staff, they can get done so quickly, kind of like you were talking about the work. I think the labor you're mentioning that something can get done so quickly because they just hire so many people.
The car wash?
Yeah, the car wash you're talking about. So it's like you're talking about a car wash, 10 guys doing one car,
right.
But the car gets done in like 3 minutes.
Really quick.
Kind of thing. It's like, okay, so you approach and kind of flex for what do the customers actually want. Because obviously they want the image. They want the final product, they want the rendering. But in that whole process, what do they really want?
What's more important?
What's most important to them?
But I think that's a tough thing to get, because usually a client or a customer, they get what they want and they go. Like, they don't care about giving the review or like the
usually. Usually, but I mean, some people will.
If you can create an experience, here's why customers don't give reviews. Because, and I'm not saying you use rhetorical here, because that business or employee is not giving them an experience well enough for them to review.
Right. Yeah.
Because you know what? There's people out there who will always write a bad review because I was pissed off, and
that's a bad experience. Yeah.
Bad experience. I'll give a review. But if it's status quo, if it's this is what I expected, why should I write a review? If you if you go above expectation, people are going to be more inclined to give a review. I give reviews when I go into a phone call with a customer service rep, and if I get someone going out of their way, someone being overly nice, I'm like, man, this is a great experience. I'm going to leave. If it's someone just, yes, sir, no, sir, here, done, okay? Please take this survey. No, thanks. I don't have time to do that because you did what I expected you to do.
Like, how do you get a review from a mediocre service?
Exactly.
It's always either very high.
Yeah.
Actually, the Subway once I got a free cookie because I gave a review.
Yeah, you can incentivize reviews.
Yeah, I'll say incentivizing reviews is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
That's a whole other podcast even. I could talk about that for hours.
Yeah.
But
that's killer, man. Well, I'm really excited to see what happens, and thanks for this information. Like that was super useful. I've never really had an in-depth chat with anyone that's in your particular field, so I felt like I learned a lot, and I know he learned a lot.
Yeah, we could have, I think, gone down
many rabbit holes.
A lot more on the VR and AR side of things. So I really think you're onto something there. That's
Hopefully.
huge, and the whole entrepreneur factor. I think you have the cornerstone to build your entrepreneurial life. Because that one thing, that trusting in yourself and believing in yourself, and not allowing for failure and doing whatever you have to do to be successful.
Find your uniqueness and stop being average.
Yep. And
boom.
Then if you just live by that and never accept failure, and when you do fail, you learn from it, but always just keep working. I think you'll be on some great things, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
Killer. Thanks, brother.
Yeah,
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Folks from around the world, thanks so much for tuning in. It's been an absolute honor, privilege to have you here. You are incredible. Until next time, love, live, learn. We'll see you later. Bye.